Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Priti Bora, Assistant Professor of Dispur College, Department of Education. Today, I will discuss the first paper of the first semester. The paper name is Principles of Education. In this paper, I will discuss the first chapter, that is the meaning and concept of education. Meaning and concept of education. Education may be described as the process of development in man. Ever since the dawn of civilization, directly or indirectly, it has been trying to educate himself in order to meet with the changing demands of the life. According to Gandhiji, by education I mean and drawing out of the best in the child and man, body, mind and soul. Indian Education Commission of 1964 to 66 stated that education ought to be related to life, needs and aspirations of the people so as to powerful instrument of social, economical and cultural transformation. Thus, Gandhiji mean that the education is the all-round development of the individual, that is body, mind and spirit. And Indian Commission has stated that education should be according to the needs of the people, and it plays an important role in changing our society, in changing our economic, and it has also bring transformation in economic transformation and cultural transformation. Thus, DV next our education is DV has also stated that education is a continuous process of living, continuous reconstruction of experience. Thus, it is a process of individual adjustment with his own self, with friends, relatives, and members of the society itself. Education helps one individual to adjust with the society, with his family members, with the relatives, and the members of the society. Hence, education is a continuous process, and it where it starts at birth and ends at death. And education can be regarded as it's a basis of the human resource development, or we can say that which is a key factor to the national development. In the next slide, I will showing you the education from which two word it has been originated. Education the term education word has been derived from the Latin word which is which means out of, duco, which means eyelid. It implies that the out of netting potentiality, eyelid or development. There are another Latin derivation is also there, educate, that is, and that education is also derived from the Latin word that is educare and educere. Educare means to bring up, to raise, to nourish, and educere means to draw, to develop, and to draw out or to lead out. Now, I will discuss the narrow and the broader meaning of education. In narrow sense, it means that the education which we really receive from the school, colleges and university, do a well thought out of plan and program. It has a greater importance in individual's life. It helps in all-round development of individual through a systematic schemes of education. Thus, whatever the education we receive from our formal education system, that and where we get degree, diploma and certificate after completing this education, that is formal education. And in the narrowest sense, we can understand the meaning of the education is the which is confined with the four walls. So in narrow sense, education means it is pre-planned, organized and fixed. It is deliberate, conscious and systematic. It is limited to offering the ready-made teaching materials. The teaching materials whatever provide, that only we provide to the students. That is in the narrowest sense. It is mainly concerned with a privileged limited scope of knowledge. Here only limited source of knowledges are only provided to the students. Here everything is pre-planned. The child is awarded a degree, diploma and certificate. This pre-planned education is given to child for its welfare and for the preservation of the cultural heritage. Thus, in the narrowest sense, we can understand that education, whatever we received in a formal way, in a formal procedure, in a formal method, that is the narrow meaning of education. For example, if the students receive education in school, in college or university, that is the formal, that is the narrow meaning of education. But on the other hand, broader meaning of education, it has a wider aspects, because whatever the one individual is getting education from his birth till his death, that is the wider meaning of education or broader meaning of education. It is not focuses on the classroom learning or school learning. It is beyond that. All kinds of experiences are said to be the educative. This type of education is never ending process. In broader meaning of education, we can understand it is the process of development, process of change, and process of adjustment. Thus, it's in the narrow meaning of education, it starts at birth and ends at death. So in broader sense, every experience by man, whatever during his infancy period, childhood, adolescence, youth, manhood, or age old, from various agencies of education, we can get such type of education. It has a wider perspective. It is not limited to particular formal instructions. If we are getting education from my parents, from your parents, from your elders, from magazine, from internet, from television, so for various agencies we can get such type of education. Taken in a broader sense, the education widens the such type of educations widens the mental outlook. It brightens his total insight and enlightens his life by thought, perceptions, and emotions. So that is the broader meaning of education. The education which starts at the birth and ends at the death, that is the broader meaning of education. For broader meaning of education, there is no any form, means it has no any rigidity. But in the narrow meaning of education, it has some rigidity. It has no such flexibility. So next, coming to the next topic, that is the education as a bipolar process. So John Adams, a famous educationist who advocated education as a bipolar process. Education takes the importance of the interaction between the two poles. That two poles is the teacher and the taught, or educator and the taught, educand. There is an interaction between the teacher and the taught or the child, and there is a mutual interaction or interrelation between them. One personality acts upon another in order to bring the development of the other. In this process, what Adams has advocated, that teacher's personality influences on the child's. So teacher's personality shows a greater influence on the pupil's personality. So it has a direct influence of teachers and through the indirect influence of the knowledge of its various form. So John Adams has showed that there should be a relationship between the teacher and the taught, so that there will be a development of the personality. And if there is an interaction takes place between the teacher and the taught, then there will be a development of the students. So John Adams advocated education as a bipolar process. But in the next terms, education as a tripolar process, who advocated by the John Dewey. He has said that for the students' development, there should be the interaction of the three poles, that is teacher, students, and the society. John Dewey advocated this process and asserts that the development of the child does not take place in vacuum. After all, the influence of the society cannot be neglected in the process of education. So society should also be taken into consideration. But in the previous terms, where John Adams, he has only given due emphasis on the teacher and the student. He has neglected the society part. But for the child's better development, social environment also should taken into consideration. So in the tripolar process of education, teacher is the former pole, educand is the other pole, and the social environment is the meeting place. So For the child's better development, three poles should be taken into consideration. So, famous educationist John Dewey has advocated education as a tripolar process, and John Adams described education as a bipolar process. Now, in the next slide, I am discussing about the forms of education, different forms of education. That is formal education, informal education, non-formal education. So, firstly, I will discuss the formal education. What is the meaning of formal education? Formal education, the child is more formal and act as the per rules, regulation, and disciplines of the school or college. It may be the college, it may be the university. The teacher is also very formal, who adopt the means of formal instructions to modify the behavior of the children. Through here in formal education, the teachers try to give formally instruction to the children, and here everything is prefixed. It has a fixed method of teaching. It has a fixed period, time period. Everything is fixed in formal education, or everything is pre-planned. It has no such flexibility. It has no flexibility. Age flexibility is also not there. So in formal education, it is planned with a particular end in view. It is limited to the specific period of time. It has set the rules and regulation beforehand, and it has well defined and systematic curriculum, and it has fixed timetable. And in formal instruction, normally it is given by the qualified teachers. So in formal education, everything is formal in nature. Means here age limit is here it has age limit, it has fixed timetable. Here the students has a particular uniform while coming for the school. So everything is firm. But in informal education, it is completely different. That which one is the second types of forms of education or the types of education. In informal education, whatever the child receives from his home, from his school, from his any sources, from his any agencies, that is informal education. It is the process of educated that starts at birth and ends at death. A child from his early age learned from his mother. He learns many etiquettes, manners from his society. For learning all this, he does not have to go to school. All this he learns spontaneously and without much effort. He learns all the culture of his family, social groups. So the such type of in such education, here no formal instruction is required. Whatever the education he is receiving from any agencies, it may be television, it may be newspaper. So in informal education, it is very much incidental and spontaneous. It is not so pre-planned and deliberate, and it is not instructed like a formal education. It is universal in nature, because everyone is learning from one person, or it may be another person, and it's a lifelong process. So, and it is not prescribed with a curriculum. It may be positive also, it may be negative also, because sometimes what happens, students learn from the internet. It has both the impact, positive impact, and it has also some negative impact. So in informal education, whatever the students receive while he is from any agencies, it may be informal agencies, it may, that is the informal educations. But the third forms of education, that is non-formal education, that is something different. Non-formal education is a new concept which is developed just recently. It has just some basic aims of formal education, but their approach is quite different from others. Non-formal education is completely the opposite of the formal education. Non-formal education is for those people who are deprived of education. It may be for a working mother, it may be for a working children. Non-formal education, in non-formal education, they will get the degree, diploma, certificate, but here it has no fixed timetable. They can join the classes according to their convenience. As we know, present age is a knowledge explosion. Today, each and every individual just want to get the education. So through the various agencies of the non-formal educations, they can get the facilities of education. The students who are deprived of the formal education, they can get such type of educations. There are various agencies of non-formal education in our Guwahati also. We have KK Handy State Open University. There it has IDOL, and in national level we have IGNO. Through distance education, through correspondence education, people can get such type of educations. So non-formal education is like a similar to formal education, but it has flexibility. Student can get their education according to their needs, according to their specific time. তেওঁলোকে নিজৰ মতে তেওঁলোকে শিক্ষা গ্ৰহণ কৰিব পাৰিব। ইয়াতে কোনো বাধা নাই যে that suppose for informal education what happens, it is limited to those age group of people, but in non formal education people যদি তেওঁৰ বয়স গুচিও যায়, he can get the education, তেওঁ শিক্ষা গ্ৰহণ কৰিব পাৰে। So it encourages the self learning also non formal education, কাৰণ because people in non-formal education, suppose in distance education or correspondence educations, educator send his all the learning materials through mail. So he has to learn from all those the things which are imparted by the teacher from the distance. দূৰৰ পৰাও পঠাব পাৰে, কোনোবাই ডিষ্টেঞ্চতো এডুকেশ্যন ল'ব পাৰে, কোনোবাই কৰেছপণ্ডেঞ্চৰ থ্ৰুৱেদিও এডুকেশ্যন ল'ব পাৰে, বিভিন্ন মাধ্যমৰ পৰা ল'ব পাৰে। আৰু ইয়াতে মানে ছেল্ফ লাৰ্ণিং, তেওঁলোকে নিজে পঢ়িব পাৰিব, সেইটোক এনকাৰেজ কৰা। ইটছ এ লাইফ লং, আৰু সেইকাৰণে ইটছ এ লাইফ লং প্ৰচেছ। কোনোবাৰ যদি বয়স পাৰ হৈ গৈছে, 16 বছৰ হৈ গ'ল, কিন্তু তথাপিতো তেওঁলোকে দে কেন গেট দ্য এডুকেশ্যন। যদি তেওঁলোকে স্কুলিংটো কৰা নাই, অপেন স্কুল আছে, উই হেভ অপেন ইউনিভাৰ্চিটি ফ্ৰম ৱেৰ দে কেন গেট দ্য নন ফৰ্মেল এডুকেশ্যন। Now in the next slide I am just showing the picture of the formal instruction. Formal instruction or jitu amar normal classroom situations where teachers provide instruction to the students, jot amar anusthanik bhabe amar patdan kora hoy chhatro chhatri, that is formal education. And in informal education, any kind of education which we receive from our elders, from our parents, from our internet. Here I am just showing the 2-3 pictures just to understand. Informal education is very spontaneous, it's very deliberate, it is not limited, so it's a lifelong process. And now next slide is non-formal education. There is a just I am showing that if the person is in another state, if he want to pursue the education from his own hometown, he can get the education through the distance mode, through correspondence course. And if someone is working in some in company, if you want to get the education through this non-formal education, he can get such type of education. So nowadays what happened, non-formal education is not meant for those that for who are deprived. Sometimes what happened, কিছুমান ছাত্ৰ ছাত্ৰীয়ে তেওঁলোকে formal education তেওঁলোকে seat নাপায়, because there is a limited seat capacity. তেওঁলোকে তেতিয়া কি হয়, ডিপ্ৰাইভড হয় ফৰ্মেলত, তেতিয়া তেওঁলোকে ক্লাছ কৰিব নাপায়, তেওঁলোকৰ যিহেতু লিমিটেড ছিট কেপাচিটি। তেতিয়া সেইবোৰ ল'ৰা ছোৱালীয়ে তেতিয়া নন ফৰ্মেলৰ থ্ৰুৱেদিয়ে কৰিব পাৰে। আমি দেখিছোঁ বহুত ল'ৰা ছোৱালী যিবোৰ মাষ্টাৰ ডিগ্ৰীও কৰিব বিচাৰে, কিন্তু তেওঁলোকৰ লিমিটেড ছিট কেপাচিটিৰ কাৰণে নোৱাৰে কৰিব ইন হায়াৰ এডুকেশ্যন, দেন দে অলছ' গেট such type of education from this agencies of the non-formal educations. Here I am showing the different agencies of formal educations, like all these formal universities, and non-formal educations are open school, open university, correspondence course, satellite communication program, distance and continuing education, and examples are like KK, HSOU, IGNO, IDOL. Now I am showing the informal agencies of education, that is it may be the radio, television, newspaper, press, Cinema, club, computer, internet, different modes are there from where one can get education. So that's why it has been regarded as which is lifelong and continuous process. Now, coming to the last topic, that is school as an agency of the social change. So school is the most important agency of imparting formal education. It has it has an important role in the development of the society as an agency of socialization. Why it has been regarded? Because school prepares a child, where the child learns every kinds of behaviors, manners, social etiquettes, and it prepares the child for an effective member of the future of the society. And school is also considered as a miniature society. Why it is called miniature? Because people of different caste, creed, religion resides together in a society. So do the children of different caste, creed, religion, etc. study together in the same place. That's why it is regarded as the miniature society. And school is always linked with the society. Whatever the society needs, whatever the society required, school has the school plays such a role. Such school plays an important role because it fulfills the social needs, hopes, and activities, and it is planned in such a way that it solves the various social, economic, and educational problems of the society. So school has a greater impact because school always has a greater impact because it has developed such an the child will be the future citizen of our particular nation. School is also responsible for handing over the cultural heritage of the past generation to the younger generation, so that they will preserve that culture. The modern school is also given the responsibility of training and bringing up to the youth, which in primitive society was cared by the other agencies like home, religion. In primitive society, what happened? There is no such formal instruction. মন্দিৰত দিব, মছজিদত দিব, তাতে ইমানখিনি আমাৰ ৰিজিডিটিটো খুব বেছি আছে। যেতিয়া স্কুল ছিষ্টেমটো আহি গ'ল আমাৰ ছ'চাইটিত, তেতিয়া স্কুলে বহুত এটা ভাল ৰোল প্লে' কৰিলে ল'ৰা ছোৱালীক প্ৰভাৱ পেলোৱাৰ, তেওঁলোকৰ গোটেই জীৱনতে প্ৰভাৱ পেলায়। ইট হেজ ইনফ্লুৱেঞ্চড ইন অল ৰাউণ্ড ডেভেলপমেণ্ট। তেওঁৰ ফিজিকেল ডেভেলপমেণ্ট হয় ইন স্কুল, মেণ্টেল ডেভেলপমেণ্ট হয়, ছ'চিয়েল ডেভেলপমেণ্ট হয়। ইন স্কুল অনলি চিলড্ৰেন লাৰ্ণ অল কাইণ্ডছ অফ ছ'চিয়েল কোৱালিটিজ, ডেম'ক্ৰেটিক environment eta hoy. So in every society all over the world, a school is engaged in the inculcation of the values. Lora swali bhal noitikota hikha dibole chesta kore. Children learns to keep children learn to keep quiet, obey commands, remain punctual. Teoloke sob discipline অনুশাসন শিকে স্কুলতে. So schools always has an instrument role to bring social change. It brings change in our society. And what happened? Participation in school activities, it makes independent. আৰু তেওঁলোক সব যেতিয়া স্কুলৰ যিকোনো কাৰ্যসূচীত যিকোনো এক্টিভিটি তেওঁলোকে এংগেজ হয়, তেওঁলোকে পাৰ্টিচিপেট কৰে, it develops their self confidence. And apart from the development of the self confidence, they become like a self dependent, আত্মনিৰ্ভৰশীল হয়। They are no more depend on the. So school has an important role in for developing our society. And uniform adherence to the rules and regulation of the school society helps the child to grow up as a social being and establish the relationship with the wider society. Schoolot jibur rules regulations mana hoy, child ল'ৰা ছোৱালী সেইখিনি মানি চলে আৰু ফিউচাৰ তেওঁলোকক হেল্প কৰে to become an effective member of the society. Thus we can say that the school has an effective role which can bring change in our society, because that is why it is regarded as the miniature society. বিদ্যালয়ত চব ধৰণৰ ছাত্ৰ ছাত্ৰী আহে, যি তেওঁ হয়তো বেলেগ কাষ্টৰ হ'ব পাৰে, ৰিলিজনৰ হ'ব পাৰে, তাতে আহি চবে একগোট হয়, where they learn all kinds of values, where they learn all kinds of discipline. It will help them in their influence in their society. আৰু অকল ছ'চাইটিতে প্ৰভাৱ নেপেলায়, ইট অলছ' হেল্প দেম ইন দিয়াৰ ডেভেলপমেণ্ট অফ দিয়াৰ পাৰ্চনেলিটি। তেওঁলোকৰ ব্যক্তিত্ব বিকাশ হয়, তেওঁলোকৰ সামাজিক বিকাশ হয়। চ' এনেধৰণে স্কুল হেজ এন গ্ৰেটাৰ ইম্পেক্ট on the child's personality. So that much I have discussed about the from the meaning and concept of education, about the forms of education. আমি বিভিন্ন প্ৰকাৰ শিক্ষাৰ প্ৰকাৰ পঢ়িলোঁ ইয়াতে, meaning of education, types of educations, and education, why education is regarded as the bipolar process, শিক্ষা কিয় দ্বিপাক্ষিক প্ৰক্ৰিয়া বুলি কোৱা হয়, why education is regarded as the tripolar process, forms of education, education as an instrument of social change. We have discussed in a little bit, and then in the next lecture I will discuss the other part of the topic. So thank you.